about the things I've seen you do. I've come to set the record straight. I've come to shine the light on you. Let me introduce myself. I am the cold hard truth.
Just make sure everyone's good. Good morning on Instagram. We've got George, Top Boy, Love with Caution. Interesting name. Sadish, thank you so much. Jaya, Sandra, can you give me that cheer, please? That's Trini 345. As you can see, we've got two actually, and I do have the blue version at my office as well. You got to sit in comfort and style at the same time. Let's see, Miss Marlon Bryan, good morning. Carla, Joshua, you guys are here for it. Jared, say what going on. Good morning, Jared. Good morning. Caribbean Audios, good morning to you. Capo, you guys are in good form this morning, still logging on. Let's see what's going on in the world of Facebook. Miriam Bodden, good morning, K-Man. How are you? Alric Rankin, good morning, good morning. Trisha, she's up nice and early. K-Man Dance Hall, good morning. Caliente K-Man also joins us. Denisha is here for it. Ruth and Farina, Andre, lots of people logging on. Andrew, Rose, Caradine, thank you guys so much. Good morning, everyone. So, how was day one of a 24/7 curfew? Patricia, good morning. Nicole, thank you so much. Juanita's here. Yes, the same question I'm asking, Juanita. How was lockdown for you guys? Terry, good morning. 1345 in the house. Yes, good morning. Gary Franklin is here for it. Good morning, Gary. Yolande says, morning, cellmates. Carrie Ann says, good morning. So the first day wasn't so bad. I mean, it was all good, right? I actually ended up not leaving the house at all yesterday. So even before we knew that we were going to do the 24/7 lockdown starting at 7, I didn't really have anything to do. And to be honest, I didn't want to fight with these crowds. I mean, you guys saw the photos of the people out and about. It was just crazy, right? Grocery store lines wrapped around the corner. Foster's airport was crazy. I didn't get too many pictures of Countryside, but I guess that was crazy enough. West Bay, I heard the line was going all the way down to like the gas station at the 4-way stop. Because remember now, they're only letting so many people in at a time. So that was super crazy. Kirk's put out a notice that they were closing because their line was like wrapping around the building and going out the street. So Kirk's decided to shut things down. To be fair to their staff, someone actually posted this, and I thought people are only thinking about themselves at a time like this. But really and truly, when you think about it, um, this has some good merit to it. Someone was saying, it's kind of sad that the workers, because you see, okay, now grocery stores are going to be open on Sundays potentially, and with people going as crazy as they are with everything, and in particular shopping, which the grocery stores keep saying, guys, ease up on us. It's not necessary. You don't have to go to the grocery store and buy out every single thing. We've got our supply chain in. We have most items that are still coming in. What's the sense of causing this type of chaos and congestion? And to be honest, I think what it ends up doing is, although I didn't go to the store yesterday, there are a few things that I could have gotten. Like I was like, oh yeah, I honestly needed some hard dough bread, but I didn't get it. So I'll live without that for the next couple of days, which is fine. But I think it even puts other people who ordinarily wouldn't go to the grocery store and who wouldn't join that line, it kind of makes them a little concerned and stir crazy, because now they're thinking, oh my God, what does everyone else know that I don't know? Do you ever get that feeling? You're like, maybe I need to be going to the grocery store, although logically I know I shouldn't be going to the grocery store. It's that same thing that we were talking about day before yesterday, about this kind of social peer pressure, social grooming that we all at some level are involved in. So Jared says people overreacting and following what others do, humans. Yeah. So for real, I mean, I kind of feel like there are probably people in that line who were only there because of what other people have done. Like other people join the line. Okay, let me see what's going on. Let me join the line. King Barnes says, sorry, wrong profile. I'm looking for News 27. Well, I'm sorry for you, King Barnes, but they no longer exist. So good luck finding that. So that's kind of where it was yesterday. Grocery lines were super crazy. I think a lot of people were trying to figure out exactly how this is going to go down. Once the premier said 24/7 lockdown, people were confused. They were like, okay, does 24/7 mean? I don't know why people are confused. I don't know if it's because he used the word 24/7 or what. Shan345 says News 27 shut down. Long time, dude. Not only have they shut down a long time ago, but they never went live on Instagram. So Shan, Michael Barnes is just trying to troll people, but nobody ain't gonna pay him no mind. So John, good morning. D says exactly. I never went. Nicole says the Captain line was crazy. When I actually called them, I'm like, do you guys have any bread? I'm like curious. And the woman's like, yeah, we've got bread. Just come, but you have to hurry. And I'm like, okay, I'm nowhere near Captain's Bakery, so I'm not about to hurry. But then someone sent me a picture of Captain's Bakery, and they were like, have you seen this? And I thought, oh no. We are not going to do that. I'm just trying to find a few government emails that I'm going to need for our discussion this morning. So yeah, folks, it's next level crazy out there. And Okay. So someone sent us a question by email. All right. So we are on a complete lockdown, and we're going to talk about exactly what that means, because I do think a lot of people were a little bit confused. We are in a complete lockdown until Saturday morning. Now, some people have different curfew times in their head. And someone sent me a message. So I just want to make sure that we're all clear on what the curfew time is right now. Because someone did send me a message saying that basically they thought that the curfew time that we had posted was wrong because it was until 6 o'clock in the morning. And I do know that the premier had changed the curfew time, and I think this is causing some confusion. So he actually increased the length of time that the curfew would last. So initially, I believe it was from 9 at night until 6 in the morning. I think that was the initial time, and you guys can certainly correct me if I'm wrong. Leroy says Eastern Avenue Rubus was crazy. People are buying gas. Morning, have question for the police. We're in lockdown by Eastern Avenue. Pro all over. I think you meant people all over the roads from 6 a.m. So this is the thing. This is what I want to, Walter, I'm glad you said that. I think we need to clarify the curfew time. So initially, the curfew was 9 to 5. No, sorry, 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. I believe that was the original time. And then day before yesterday, the premier changed it to 7. And I think he adjusted the morning as well to 5. But as of yesterday, it is definitely 7 p.m. until 5 in the morning. So Walter, that's probably why you're seeing people out at 6 o'clock and the police aren't doing anything about it, because the curfew actually ends at 5 o'clock. But now, this morning, nobody should be out because it is actually, with the exception of, and we're going to talk about the exceptions, of certain emergency category essential workers. Everybody else is required to be on a 24/7 lockdown. So in other words, don't leave your house until Saturday morning, after Saturday morning. And here's the thing with the whole leaving your house thing, even on Saturday morning, the idea isn't for every single person to get up at 5:15 on Saturday morning and be out and about on the streets. The idea is, listen, we now have what we believe is local transmission of COVID-19 disease. Once this virus becomes locally transmitted, it creates a real problem because it's super difficult to then try to get a grasp on what's happening. So local transmission is basically where it is being transmitted in the community amongst people, and you can't actually trace it back to someone with a travel history. And so then it starts to spread really fast. And so everywhere else in the world, the only way to control the local transmission is to keep people separated from each other and to keep it isolated, identify any hotspots of the virus that may currently exist, and try to incubate or isolate those individuals who have it until they are no longer contagious and then you kill the chain, you break the chain. They call it flattening the curve. You keep hearing this terminology about flattening the curve, and that's what flattening the curve is all about. So that's where we're at right now, and that is what we are doing our best to ensure that we can get done, right? So it's important for people to understand what's happening, why the government now feels that it is incredibly urgent for us to go into this kind of lockdown mode, if you will. And, you know, what we can do to control the situation. So I want to encourage every single person, do not move from your house until, and like I said, I'm not even saying to you, move like jump up and do something on Saturday morning. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is over the next couple weeks, because this is the critical time now that we will get an idea of how wide it is in the community, try to just stay put. So don't invite people over to your house, because now that we have local transmission, we don't know exactly where, like that person at the hospital who had it, that's a local transmission case, number one. There was another one, apparently, they announced yesterday that they sent off to CARPA for testing, for verification. And although they had counted it as a negative here, CARPA actually confirmed that it is a positive. So again, not good news. So just stay put, basically. Beverly from New York. Thank you, Beverly. Shirley says, God bless the Cayman Islands, the Philippines, and the whole world. Amen. Terry says 24/7 lockdown was like a madhouse at Foster's. Definitely. Good morning to a few more people. So again, just to clarify, the curfew is 7 p.m. until 6 a.m. So it's 11 hours. So Dominique says, good morning to those in curfew. So we're going to just take it in stride. Someone said to me yesterday after the announcement, they're like, are you going to go live right now and break it down for us? Let's talk about what happened. Good morning, Orville, Yvette. Because I think a lot of people have found these sessions very comforting. Like, we can sit here, we can talk to each other. You guys have a little something to do, maybe other than watch TV. We can break up the monotony a little bit. And I think that's good. Now, of course, I have things as well. I do actually have a job. Working from home is no issue for me. I've been actually working from home off and on for years, so that is fine with me. And I do have a family. I do have a young daughter who's 3 years old, and she's at home, and we need to find things for her to do, try to keep her on a little bit of a schedule, so that when she starts going back to school, because at 3 years old, a 3-year-old doesn't really understand any of this. They have no idea what's going on. You try to do your best kind of explaining just a little bit to them, not too much, because this is actually a stressful kind of situation in many regards, right? So you don't want to pass on the stress to your kids. And I think as parents, it's important that we manage our own stress levels, because children can pick up, even if you're not saying anything directly to them, they can feel the energy in your household, and they can definitely pick up on a lot of that. So, initially we told her that we were on a holiday because she understands what a holiday and vacation means. The only problem with that is in her mind, the mind of a 3-year-old, she's like, oh, we're on a holiday. So where are we going? Like, because holidays mean you're going somewhere. You're going to go to the beach. You're going to go on vacation. You're going to travel. You're going to get on this big plane. In her mind, a holiday does not mean you're staying home 24/7. So it's been a little bit of a challenge to explain to her that we're actually not going anywhere. Because everyone is like, where are we going? Where are we going? All right. So Michael Barnes says that he doesn't live on island and he was just checking on his people. So he's sorry. He didn't know Cayman 27 has long been gone. All right, Michael, you haven't been keeping up, man. Even if you don't live here, this is a small world. So Shan says, well, Cayman Mall Road is where you get the real news. You either watch or go, but don't be shady. Thank you, Shan _345. God Made Me 345 says, good morning, Sandra. Thanks for keeping us updated. Absolute Fire. Yes, that one sounds hot. Says, good morning, Sandra. People were also topping up on gas as well. Now we're on lockdown. How was that going to help? Absolute Fire. I heard about the gas station lines and I thought the exact same thing. Now, unless they were on like completely and empty, which in this day and age, it's like, come on, don't go on complete empty because you never know, when something is going to happen, when you're going to need some assistance. And you may have to go in your car. But yeah, I'm also kind of wondering if that wasn't the case, why were the gas station lines so long? Because at the end of the day, you're not going anywhere. You're actually on lockdown. So I didn't quite get the whole gas thing either, to be honest. I don't really know why people would have been topping up. Now, I think it was about a week ago, I said to myself, you know what? Because sometimes I do let my gas run a little bit low and don't even realize it. I said to myself, let me try to keep at least half a tank. So I went and filled up, and I haven't really been driving a whole lot anyway, so it's been good. But yeah, that was kind of weird. Jared said, yeah, buying gas to stay home. Kind of funny. Absolute Fire says, we are on complete lockdown, which meant 24/7, all day and night between Thursday and Friday. Well, it actually started last night, so Wednesday night. Saturday morning at 5 a.m. it stops. However, the lockdown from 7 p.m. to 5 p.m. is still in place for the 10 days. Exactly. So let's make sure we all get this, right? So what the premier did yesterday, he basically added like a second lockdown that is a 24/7 lockdown. And that's what he was trying to say. The 24/7 lockdown is from last night, Wednesday night, until Saturday morning at 5 a.m. No one is going anywhere. And this lockdown actually expanded the number of people that would be impacted by this and the businesses that were impacted by this. And do you want to know why he had to do this? Let me tell you guys something. The local business community is next level crazy. The only thing that explains their behavior is absolute greed. That's it. Money over lives. And that's all people are thinking about. They do not understand the seriousness of this situation, or they just don't care. Otherwise, explain to me why the premier would have had an initial 850 requests for a total of 20,000 workers to be exempted from the essentials only categories. 20,000 people. 800 and what did I just say? 850 requests. Why would that be necessary? That, in my mind, sends a very clear message that we live in a community where, in particular, the business owners, the businesses are overly focused on money. They don't understand the seriousness of this situation, or they just do not care. Those are the only possibilities here. The premier said that one company alone requested 700 employees to be exempt, because it's not, when they put in for an exemption, it's not the entire business that is exempt. It's individuals. So even with Foster's Food Fair, it wasn't everyone at Foster's that would be exempt. It was just categories of people who might need to get in during the night and therefore be outside of the first set of curfew hours. So if they're stocking the shelves, they want to make sure that when the store opens in the morning, there's a lot of stocking of shelves and bringing in of inventory, the shipping company, stuff like that happens at night. And so some of the work that happens in this community does happen at night, and the government appreciated that. And that's why they said, okay, even during the curfew hours, we appreciate that there are some people who may be going in to do those types of jobs, etc., and have to be on the road. So we don't want police unnecessarily arresting people who actually have a really important job to do, making sure that the grocery stores are properly stocked. But 20,000 people, that defeats the entire purpose of trying to have a lockdown. Like, that is literally what, a third of our population? And so if they're out and about and mingling and whatever, how does that work? So that is why the premier said, you know what, that, and in conjunction with the fact that we have yet another confirmed case that looks like now we definitely have local transmission, that we needed to do a complete lockdown for a couple of days, kind of give us an opportunity to reset the meter a little bit. Everyone stay at home. This isn't about you going to your friends' houses and hanging out. If they're not immediate family and immediate people in your household, you need to remain in place. Now, we need to be realistic, because it is possible now that we have a total of 8 cases and it looks like local transmission. Throughout the coming days, we will get results of other people. It may be necessary to expand the shutdown. For those of you who tuned in yesterday, you saw that there were a number of countries all over the world that are in the exact same predicament that we are. They are on complete lockdown. Their streets are empty. People are staying home. That is just what the world is having to do to try to contain the situation as much as possible. Now, there are certain people who are exempted, and we're going to go through that exempted list, but that exemption list has decreased from what it would be for the normal nighttime only lockdown or curfew, because the normal curfew, the grocery stores are still open during the day. And there's some businesses that, although some of them are open during the day, and I'm thinking, why are they open? So we need to now just get a grapple on this. So let's confirm curfew is from 7 p.m. until 5 a.m. At the moment, we are on a complete, and this is all 3 island folks, which I don't think the sister islands have a problem because they're off the streets normally early anyway. We have a complete lockdown of this country until 5 a.m. on Saturday morning. The premier has said all residents need to abide strictly by the lockdown and the curfew. And again, this was taken to try to suppress local transmission of COVID 19 as quickly as possible. And the way that he explained it, in case you missed, because I know sometimes people miss the press conferences or they don't always understand what is transpiring in the press conferences. So if you missed it, it's important to know that one of the key things that he said is, listen, if we get over this point, which we'll know, in the 10-day period, just how bad it is, kind of where we're at. But if we can control the number of cases that we have locally and try to flatten that curve. So in other words, it's been going up and up and up and up and up. Eventually at some point it may come down, but we're trying to get it where it's like no new cases. If we can get to that point where we feel confident that we've done that, then our lives can start to return to a sense of normalcy. We will probably have to keep our borders closed for a lot longer because, again, we can't just be like, oh, open up the borders, allow everybody to come back in, because those people that are coming in are bringing it in. So if the rest of the world doesn't have it under control, but we manage to get it under control, the only way for us to secure ourselves and to be safe is to keep the international borders closed. But at least we can say we're fairly confident now that local transmission is under control. And if that is the case, we can reopen schools. People can start to get back into the local community. Local businesses can open. We just can't open anything, like probably the hotels will have to remain closed because, again, that's tourism. So we can't open the tourism borders. We can't let people in, that sort of thing. The premier also finally said, and you guys know I've been on this whole kick for a little minute now, about the fact that the World Health Organization is saying that we need to test. And the premier actually used that quote yesterday. The World Health Organization has said, you cannot fight a fire blindfolded because you're operating in the dark. Not only that, but as I indicated yesterday, the CDC has now put out new guidelines that removes the strict requirement of being infected, having a respiratory, obvious respiratory issue and all these other things. The CDC, the World Health Organization, everyone is moving away from that line of thinking, despite the fact that we were still saying it right up until yesterday when the premier said, yes, they now recognize that the World Health Organization is saying test. However, there is a shortage of, and I had a physician explain it to me yesterday, and I'm going to try to explain it to you guys as well. It's not so much a test kit as it is like the swabs and stuff that they use to do the testing. Those are in short supply around the world because obviously this pandemic has everybody trying to test. And so I don't know if we have to get our testing materials directly from the UK, but they themselves are having a shortage. And so there's a little bit of issue about getting enough of them. But the premier did say, listen, we get that we should be testing. Everyone should be getting tested, but we don't necessarily have the capacity right now to do that. So in lieu of that, we're going to do essentially what is a complete shutdown of the country. And they call it, the term that they're using, and you may have heard this term, and I think maybe it confused a couple people, but it's called shelter in place order. So it's shelter in place. What that means is you're going to stay put in your house, basically. But I know that term was thrown around a little bit yesterday. And I think, again, we don't all understand the logistics of exactly what's going on. But basically, a shelter in place is where you just stay home. And it's a legal terminology for a particular order that the government and authorities around the world can actually use to force people to shelter in their houses. And it is reserved for what is considered emergency situations. So this again, the premier explained, he's not taking this lightly. It's not something that they were like, oh yeah, let's just make everybody stay home. It takes a lot to make that kind of decision because they appreciate exactly the impact that it's going to have on all of our lives. But the alternative of having 800, potentially 800 people in this community dead from the coronavirus is not something that we can accept and that we can just take without a fight. So Instagram, right. So from Saturday at 5 a.m., people can move outside freely until 7 p.m. So, right. So, as it is right now, and again, you've got to stay tuned because this stuff can change at any minute. On Friday morning, after the complete lockdown is lifted, we return to the regular curfew, which means on Saturday, grocery stores will open after 5 o'clock and we can start to move about. Now, I want to discourage people from interpreting that to mean we can go have beach parties. We still are under the other conditions of no more than 10 public gatherings. That includes funerals, weddings, whatever else you might have going on. And keeping this social distancing of at least 6 feet between people, because that is the goal. That is how going forward, we may have to do this. I read somewhere in the international press that this social distancing concept isn't going to go away in a week, a month, or even 2 months. This is something for the foreseeable future that we all have to start engaging in. Social distancing, communicable diseases, trying to keep these things under control. So Ms. Militant says they're trying to take time to assess the situation and help add another layer of containment until they can figure out what the next move is, essentially as per the case of local transmission. Exactly. So Jared said basically, well, if you want to find him, swab everyone going through the supermarket. So he's suggesting setting up a mobile testing, not a bad idea probably, unit at the local supermarkets and just swab everybody. So I think that, yeah, there is a certain logic to that. But unfortunately, the major issue for us is not being able to access enough of the testing kits. And this is a major problem. The world over, medical equipments, respirators, beds, all this stuff is going to be in short supply because this isn't a situation where we just have an outbreak in 1 or 2 countries. This is a situation where there's an outbreak around the world. Everyone is being impacted by this. In the UK, they're setting up, someone sent me a video yesterday where they're setting up, I don't know what it was originally. I don't know if it was a gymnasium or something, but it's this huge indoor space. And the guy is in there starting to set that up now, like do all the fit out work. And he was saying that it just hit him personally, how serious this is, because he's one of the work crew. And in that space, they were going to set up 4,000 beds. And this is in the UK. So we know that China was initially the hardest hit. Italy is now the hardest hit. They have surpassed China's numbers and the number of deaths. And I can get you guys the figures in just a minute. Spain is also a significant hotspot on the European front. The UK, it's coming. They don't think the worst has hit the UK, none at all. And the US, the exact same thing. President Trump was talking about, oh, by Easter, we're going to have huge gatherings. We're going to be throwing parties. We're going to have a great time. Now, I don't try to get into American politics too much because, number one, I'm not an American. So I feel like it's probably not my place. I lived there for some 15 years of my life. I had American residency. I've relinquished that because they've gone next level crazy, if you ask me. But still, I always am like, I'll leave that for the Americans. Like, I'll leave that for them. Although every single thing they do impacts all of us in some way or another. But sometimes I watch President Trump and I don't know if the man really playing with a full deck. I mean, I know he has his supporters and there are people who likes his strong stance on immigration and all sorts of other things. Um, but when the man makes a comment like, "Oh, by Easter, which is literally a month away, Americans are going to be out in large gatherings, partying, having a good time, and life is going to return to normal," he's delusional. That's not what's going to happen. And for him to put out that message out in the community is beyond irresponsible because there are people who die and live by Trump. So whatever Trump says to them, they believe, whether it makes any medical sense, common sense, or no sense at all, they believe it. And I cannot believe that the president of the United States is actually making that type of comment. It's so irresponsible and it's completely wrong. So don't be making any Easter plans. We're not going Easter camping in Cayman unless you're camping inside of your own house. Camp inside the house, camp inside your yard with your kids, give them the camping experience, but we're not going out in public spaces to do any camping at all. So if you had plans, cut the plans from now. Don't go out there trying to reserve any beaches because it's not going to happen. I don't know. I thought that said dream, but there's an actual A in there. Is it Drialm 70? Says, "Good morning, Sandra. Yes, it's comforting, my new Oprah show." Thank you so much. Jared says he doesn't know what empty looks like. I guess for the grocery stores. Oh, the hotels are still open. Wow. Remember now, there's 2 of them that are open who've taken in quarantine individuals, Comfort Suites, and what is the second one? I heard it yesterday, but I can't remember the name of it now. Initially, someone had said the Westin, but it's actually not the Westin. It's Comfort Suites and is it Holiday Inn? But there's 2 of them that are open to kind of take people in, which includes like emergency workers and stuff like that as well. So someone said it's just business for Trump. Worse, the bill didn't pass. Oh, it didn't? Hold on a second. I need to catch up on that because I thought they were doing this big stimulus bill, like $3 trillion, which is going to put the U.S. in massive debt, but they're not worried about that right now. It's kind of like pay for it now, do it now, and don't worry about how you're going to pay for it later. But that's going to cause issues. So we'll see how that works out for them. So in the UK, on the testing front, they have actually been developing a new test kit that people can actually do at home. And they're hoping that this could be ready in a matter of just days even. So this is good news. So UK researchers from Brunei University in London, Lancaster University, and the University of Surrey can provide COVID-19 detection in as little as 30 minutes using handheld hardware that costs as little as £100, which is about $120 US, with individual swab sample kits that can cost around $5 per person. So it sounds like you buy this equipment and then you have the individual kits, $5 per person. Hopefully in Cayman, they will not get marked up. And then the kit is based on existing technology that they have used in the Philippines for testing viral infections in chickens. But they believe that there's some adaptation that can happen, some modification. And with that modification, they will be able to do like home kits and home testing. That would be huge if they're accurate and if they work, because basically you can now test from home once this rolls out. So they're looking at production. It could be ready in a matter of a week, and then production could be ramped up from there. Listen to this. In Los Angeles, the mayor has said that he will cut off water and power for non-essential businesses who refuse to close. So again, all over the world, including Cayman, we are struggling with greedy ass businesses who are more concerned about their bottom line and the money than doing the right thing by their countries and their respective cities. Very irresponsible, but I like their approach. They're like, listen, we will shut off your water supply and your electricity. Without either of those, you're unlikely to have anyone walking through your door. So that is good. Just trying to see what other news we have that's coming in here. So the FDA also updated their testing procedures for people as well, to basically open up the possibility of faster testing, more people getting tested, and eventually even self-testing. Okay, so let me just review what some of the essential businesses are. So we're all sheltering in place. People, like I said, could apply for an exemption. If you need to do that, essential businesses, you need to apply to an email address called curfewtime@gov.ky. There was another email address that they had for, I don't know if the premier said like general questions, whatever, but they had so many emails going into that email address, they had to shut it down. It was like the server was breaking. It was just too much. So, this is interesting. And these are lessons that we're going to learn during emergency times like this. You need to have the capacity to handle certain high traffic situations, and maybe just have even full-time staff sitting there monitoring these emails all the time. But it's a little bit difficult to put that in place on such short notice. But again, hazard management going forward, these are the types of things that they want to think about. And you don't always think about it until it happens. I mean, I got to be honest with you guys, right? Here's a perfect example on a more personal level. Here at Cayman Mall Road, we have our website, we have our servers, which are obviously hosted overseas. And so August of last year, we did a migration from an old format because listen, when CMR first started, none of us, not even myself, saw this growing into what it is now. We were just like, me personally, I was just like, you know what? I'm going to do just a little news blog. Not really, it wasn't technically a blog. It was what we call a news forum. We're going to cover news. We wanted to be different. We wanted to make sure that we give people all of the news and then allow people to decide, they pick and choose how they're going to process it, whatever. But, no filtering of the news, no prettying up of the news, and report on things that we're all concerned about. So, it's not just government press releases kind of thing. So when we started out, we started this website format that for the time being, when we started, it was fine, whatever. And then the traffic quickly was like going up and up and up. So we said, okay, we need a proper website build out. So we had to hire people to do what you see now as the existing format. That's actually, the back end is designed for news companies. So now we have more flexibility. We can have multiple people that we give access to the website as writers who can write content. It's a lot more, it's designed specifically for news. So we can do like food reviews, which eventually one day we hope to launch. We can allow proper comments in the articles. There's tons more news specific components of the website. But the other part of it is having the website hosted on a server that can take the capacity. So initially, when we did the move in August, we went with a new company for server hosting, and we noticed that anytime there was like a slight spike in readers and viewers, whatever, the website was having a real issue maintaining. Like you'd get error messages, it was going down, and I was like, what's going on? I'm not a website builder. I know a little bit on the technical side, but I'm not a technical expert. But I'm like, obviously, we've got a load issue here. These servers can't handle the load. I don't want to get too technical, but there are different types of servers. There's like dedicated servers, there's shared servers, shared hosting, blah, blah, blah. And I said, listen, we need to change. We need to get rid of this company. It's going to cost us way more money to do so. But sometimes you've got to spend the money for the reliability. And we did that. And funny enough, it was like God's blessings that we did it, because all of a sudden big things started to happen. Like when the earthquake happened, in one go, we had 600 people on the website at one time. And in order for a website to handle thousands of people, you need to have the load capacity. You need to have the servers on the back end that can handle that. Otherwise, websites are crashing, emails are unusable, and you run into all sorts of issues. And what's the sense of a website, a news website, if people can't access it? What's the sense of an email if people can't access it? So Billy, hey, Billy girl, what's up? I've not seen Billy in a minute. She said businesses should still be paying workers based on this being a government shutdown. So that is very true, and we wish that that was possible. And government can't mandate that because there's actually nothing in the law. And again, we need to think about all of these things at some point in time. But there's actually nothing in the law that allows them to do that. Kind of sucks, but that's what it is. So let me just see here. Anne says public health, England claim finger prick antibody kits will be available on Amazon within days. Okay. That's interesting. Okay, Darren wants to talk about the employers that are not paying their workers. Okay, so let's talk about this because Billy just made the point as well. This is a thing. Someone said construction workers are not getting paid. So here's the problem, right? Government, as it is right now, has there's nothing in the labor law. And historically, we have had a very weak labor law. But there's nothing in the labor law that can force the government to compel businesses to pay their staff during emergency situations like this. So what the government is doing right now is they're urging businesses, if they can, to pay staff. Don't take their vacation or their sick leave, which we've seen big retailers, even, the Kernel family said this is what it's going to be for right now. They're scrambling, trying to figure out how this is going to work. If you are a medium to small business, your ability to pay staff when you have no income coming in, let's just be realistic here, is probably not that great. Because most businesses, just like the rest of us individually, businesses are running like on credit, in overdraft. We live paycheck to paycheck. They're living month to month. They're not really giving themselves a paycheck, but you know what I mean? It's the same kind of concept. So they're running on, okay, what revenue are we bringing in this month to pay our bills? What debt can we float? What credit do we have available out there to use? So a lot of businesses, they're not cash, what's the word I'm looking for? They're not cash, they're cash strapped. So they don't have a whole lot of immediate liquidity, is what you call it in the finance world, right? In the world of business, when they go out and purchase stuff, whether they get equipment, food for the business, whatever, they're doing a lot of those things on credit. So they buy it, get it now, pay for it later. And so when they have a complete shutdown where nobody's working, no money's coming in, the question then becomes, although we would love for all businesses to be able to pay their staff, how realistic is that really? So I get that as a worker, you're like, you probably don't even care what the business is going through. You're just like, I want to be paid. But is it possible that the business doesn't even have it to pay you? Now, I don't think that's the case with every business, and I want to believe that the businesses who can continue paying staff are doing so. Kevin says the 2 hotels in use right now, Comfort Suites and Margaritaville. Thank you, Kevin, Margaritaville. You're right. And I did know that, and I totally could not remember that this morning. Cameron mentions that the US is already in debt by $20 trillion. So what's a couple more trillion? Sue is making some comments. So Billy clarified that the stimulus package was actually approved, and Marshall confirms that, and that people in the US will start getting a check by the 6th of April. All right, so Margaritaville, yes, thank you guys so much. Twyla says, suppose Trump knows something we do not know. Well, apparently he knows something that nobody else in the world knows, including the medical professionals who, this is kind of their job to know what's going on. Here's the thing, right? A lot of us are sitting back going, this thing came out of nowhere. We didn't expect it. This is like a man-made situation. What's going on here? But I want to caution us, if we do a little bit of research, we would actually know that to some people, this entire situation is actually no surprise at all. So I'm going to share a link I can't do it with IG, but I'm going to share a link in the Facebook. We did it on our Facebook page. So if you guys have access to Facebook, I want you to check out this article. It's called The Doctor Who Helped Defeat Smallpox Explains What's Coming. So this guy, I'm just going to pull this over in this other screen. I'm using like dual screen so that sometimes you see me looking in this direction where the camera is, and then other times I'm looking over here so I can pull up multiple tabs and stuff like this. So this guy, his name is Larry Brilliant. Perfect name. Like, this is so funny. He's a oh God, this word. Okay, you guys got to help me out here. Epidemiologist. Oh my God. Siri, help me. Okay, hold on. This is why we have modern technology, because we can just go to like dictionary.com and say, help me pronounce this long word that I know how to pronounce, but I can't right now. You have to break it down, but then sometimes you start it out wrong. Let me see if we can pull it up. Epidemiology. Hold on. Come on, give me epidemiology. There we go. This has like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 7. What do we call the oh God, I'm having a total brain fart here. What do you call like when you break it down into the little sections? So epidemiology. Here we go again. Epidemiology. So the demiology is like a hard epidemiology. There we go. That's what he is. And so what that means is he is basically an expert in this specific field of medicine, and they deal with the incidence and prevalence of disease in large populations. So epidemics. Now it's a pandemic. I wonder if there's such a thing as a pandemiology or whatever. But it's the same thing. So they deal in infectious diseases that impact a large portion of the population. So this guy has been talking about, these sorts of outbreaks for quite some time. And the interesting thing about it is what he has said is precisely what is happening right now. So again, we're all like, oh my gosh, where did this come from? The Chinese created it. They're such horrible people, blah, blah, blah. Well, this dude, again, his name is Larry Brilliant. He's been talking about a pandemic of this nature since 2006. So he warned us in 2006 that 14 years ago that we are on the verge of a major pandemic, because apparently it seems like there is a bit of a cycle on how often they happen. And yes, we've been able to get a lot of things under control with, we've got different medications. We have vaccinations available. So that's basically eliminated a lot of these things like smallpox and, what are some of the other major ones that we've had that have killed like tons of people? We know what causes a lot of diseases like the Black Plague, the rats infestation, feces from rats, and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of these outbreaks that have happened in the past, sometimes they were because of hygiene issues and not realizing that rats are running rampant all over the world and getting droplets in our homes and foods and whatever. So as we have matured as a society, as we have better medicine, we have access to vaccinations and treatments and so on, a lot of these diseases and so forth have been suppressed to a large extent. We practically eliminated, we were on the verge of eliminating quite a few major diseases because of vaccinations. And one of the scary things is a lot of us, I'm not included in this group, by the way, are really anti-vaccination people. And so we have seen a reemergence of things like smallpox, measles, mumps, and so on. And, we have not lived through any of those. So for the vast majority of us, this is the first time that we're living through a pandemic, an epidemic of this nature. And that's why we can sit back and criticize, well, oh yeah, we're going to believe all this fake news about vaccinations, because we haven't seen what life without vaccinations has been. We haven't seen the total devastation that smallpox can, an outbreak of smallpox, an outbreak of measles can actually create, and the havoc that it does on people's lives and how it can ruin entire communities and cause people to die and be deformed and all that kind of stuff. We haven't experienced that. So it's easy for us to buy into theories about trying to link vaccinations to, HDHD and all sorts of other things. When there isn't a medical link, we want to believe those things, and we're easy to do so because we're like, who cares about getting vaccinated? But you have a major outbreak of measles in your community, you're going to start caring. And so this is like, it was predicted. And he basically said that, listen, he didn't have a crystal ball, but he's in the business of working with epidemics. He was one of the key epidemiologists. Whoa, we got it right. We can learn. Check that out. He was one of the key epidemiologists. It's like you got to keep saying it till your brain gets it, right? Who helped to eradicate smallpox. And he did a whole talk, a TED audience, and he talked about what the next pandemic, in his view, would actually look like. And this is what he said back in 2006. So I want you guys to listen to this. It says here, at the time, it sounded almost too horrible to take seriously, because he said 1 million people would get sick. As many as 165 million people would die. No, I'm sorry, 1 billion people. My apologies. Billion with a B. 1 billion people would get sick. As many as 165 million people would die. There would be a global recession and depression, and the cost to our economy of $1 to $3 trillion would be far worse for everyone than merely 100 million people dying, because so many more people would lose their jobs, their healthcare benefits, and the consequences are almost unthinkable. That is a direct quote from what this man said in 2006. So, no, he's not psychic. He is an experienced epidemiologist, an experienced doctor. And so Dr. Brilliant has an idea, or had an idea from back in 2006, of what was actually coming. And now they're saying the unthinkable is here. So a lot of you have been sharing this book by some woman who wrote, she claims that she was a psychic, and she's been writing predictions about, oh, we're going to have an outbreak of this, an outbreak of that, whatever. One of the predictions she said is, oh, there's going to be an outbreak of coronavirus. Well, she did that right after there was an outbreak of the last coronavirus. So saying that another one is coming is probably not psychic. It's probably just common sense. Had you been paying attention? This guy, he predicted it in 2006 as well. But not because he's psychic, but because he is an epidemiologist with knowledge of how these things work. And basically, he was just saying it's just a matter of time. So it goes on to say, now the unthinkable is here. And Brilliant, the chairman of the board of ending pandemics, there's such a board, is sharing expertise with those on the front line. So he said, listen, we're still a long way from 100 million deaths due to the novel coronavirus, but it has turned our world upside down. He's not trying to say, I told you so, but he did. So when those of us who watch movies like Contagion, and we're like, oh my gosh, Contagion predicted it. Well, Contagion probably listened to what he was saying and said, oh, you know what? This would make a really cool movie about an outbreak. So this guy, he's 75 years old now. He worked with the World Health Organization to bring an end to smallpox. He has fought flu, polio. That was another big one that a lot of us don't even know what polio is. We've never seen somebody with polio. So go Google it. That's what Google is there for. Find out about these things. Find out about infectious diseases and how they have impacted the world for a very long time. So this novel coronavirus might be new in the sense that it's a new strain. None of us have any immunity for it. And this is why it's running so quickly and so rampant through the population. As soon as we start to build up, the human body starts to learn how to fight this and build up an immunity, we're all going to be in a better position. But that could mean the entire world getting infected and a lot of people dying. And so that is precisely why preventative measures are in place to try to, prevent this from happening. But if you have an opportunity, this is actually his, they have an interview here with him that he gave. And I would invite you guys to click on this link, read this interview, because, he says some very, very interesting things. Now looking back on what he said. So here's what he says about flatten the curve. He says, by slowing it down or flattening it, which is what that means, we're not going to decrease the total number of cases. We're going to postpone many cases until we get a vaccine, which we will, because there's nothing in the virology that makes me frightened that we won't get a vaccine in 12 to 18 months. Eventually, we will get to the epidemiologist's gold ring, which is a vaccine. His prediction is 12 to 18 months. Now, listen, this guy is 75 years old. Go Google his expertise, but he is an expert in this. So when you hear people talking about, oh, Cuba has a vaccine, Cuba is going to Jamaica to help them cure this, Cuba has all the answers. I'm not saying that Cuba doesn't do wonderful things in the world of medicine, but I think we need to be cautious and we need to be responsible in believing every single thing that we see and hear about a potential cure. It's not going to come as quickly as we think. They've already started testing one particular vaccination drug. They are doing like round one of testing. Most responsible countries recognize that any vaccine has to go through testing. You can't just roll it out to the general community because, again, heaven forbid there's something wrong with that vaccine. You're going to have the anti vaccination people having a real reason then to say, oh, look, this vaccine is killing people. Let's not vaccinate for anything. So, there in the medical community, there is a protocol and a certain amount of responsibility that has nothing to do with politics. So we heard about Trump wanting to basically buy the German scientists who are working on their own potential vaccine. But a cure for vaccine, or not a cure, a vaccine for this coronavirus is being worked on numerous fronts around the world. So the Germans are working on it. The Americans probably have their team. You know, I'm sure the Cubans are trying their best. Everybody's trying to work on it. And maybe it's going to be possible for them to come together and find something through one or combination of all of these things. But there currently is no known vaccination and no known treatment for the coronavirus. And in fact, what the Cubans have been doing, which is kind of interesting, is they have been using a viral cocktail that they use to treat HIV patients, AIDS patients. The problem with that is it's actually not effective despite the messages that are going out on WhatsApp and whatever. And not only is it not effective, but it is using up the needed supply of those particular drugs, which people who are in the AIDS or HIV community actually need to maintain their level of health. Because remember, once you have HIV, you are more susceptible to getting all sorts of things, including the coronavirus, which will kill you. So a lot of people can now live with an HIV diagnosis. They can manage it for many, many years because they take this concoction of drugs to manage their health and to suppress what would normally have killed them with that infection. So there's no cure yet, although they have had a couple cases where they have seen any traces of the disease, HIV, AIDS, disappear in people. And so they think maybe in the next 5 years, they may have a treatment, a cure, not just a treatment, but a cure for AIDS. But they're not there yet, but they've noticed a few people who it has disappeared from their system. So they're trying to, it's undetectable. So they're trying to figure out, wow, how did that happen? Let's try to see if we can replicate this. But they're using drugs that are used for different things and they're testing it out. And of course, you know, sometimes countries have a reason why they want you to believe that they might have a cure. And normally the reason is financial. There was some evangelist who was arrested the other day by the Americans who basically was, I don't even know what it was. This evangelist was trying to sell people some fake concoction, telling people, oh, this is going to cure you of coronavirus. And it doesn't work. And it's very, very dangerous to have people like that going around in the community saying those sorts of things, because unfortunately, we have a lot of people who want to believe that. A lot of gullible people in this world. And they're going to believe those types of things to their own detriment. So, of course, having a strong immune system, you know, not having any underlying health issues will help you if you get this. Because it seems like not everyone, but a lot of the people who are dying from this have other immunity issues. They're diabetic, they're, you know, have hypertension, other issues that they're not managing necessarily. And then that makes you more likely to be one of the worst case scenarios and die from COVID-19. Angel says 3.3 million Americans filed jobless claims last week. That was on the breaking news just now. Maislin says construction workers don't get paid, which is so interesting because, I mean, construction workers are working just up until yesterday. And so again, these are like companies that you know they're just being shady. The business owners are just being shady. Because when you secure a construction contract, you get paid at least a drawdown on the job in advance so that you can buy materials that you need for the job, and also so that you can pay your staff, pay the laborers. So to hear that a construction company is already saying, oh, they're not going to pay people, that's financial mismanagement is probably what's going on there. So sorry, guys. I need to restart the Instagram feed because, again, it only lasts for an hour. And then we have to redo it. And I think it cut off a little while ago. Okay, so Terry says, 1345. Hi, Sandra. Good morning. Again, I'm asking you a question. My son's wife had a baby last night. He was there. The nurse told him to go home. I can't understand this. It's his first baby. I know you want to go back to the hospital. I know he wants to go back to the hospital to look for his baby and his wife. The police are saying he cannot go. Can you let me know what can I tell him? Tell him, Terry, to stay home. That's what you need to tell him. It is in the best interests of his wife, the baby, and everyone else in this community if he stays home. And it's interesting, Terry, that you should say that, because just last night I saw an article about women all over the world who are being forced to deliver a baby alone, practically, with no husbands, no boyfriends, no significant others by their sides. Because number one, a lot of hospitals are on lockdown. They're not allowing visitors in. And number two, the risk that poses to other people in the hospital is a serious risk. So I know Terry, this is his first baby and he wants to be there for that experience. But the best thing he can do is to stay home. We have already had one hospital facility, Health City, shut down because of patient 0 being diagnosed at their facility. As a result of that, the first batch of positive cases that we have, patient 0 plus 4 members of their staff, and I'm trying to remember, is it 3 staff members and 1 an ICU patient? But basically, half of the infections that we now have confirmed in this country have been at Health City. More than half. Because it's been 5 if you count the 1 dead person. And we have 8. So hospitals are high risk because of the nature of the business they're in. Sick people coming in, flu patients coming in, even the patient that we found out about day before yesterday, which looks like a local transmission. That person was at the hospital getting prepped to be sent overseas for a procedure. So now the hospital is on virtual lockdown. There are up to 14 members of staff that may have come in contact with this person. So they have to quarantine this and control this as quickly as possible. So Terry, I get that your son wants to be there with his wife and the baby, but trust me when I tell you the safest place for everyone is for him to remain at home, for her and the baby to come out of the hospital as safe and as quickly as possible to be able to return home. This country would be in a state of devastation if the HSA has to shut down completely. They have fewer beds than Health City. Health City is on lockdown as it is right now. It's going to take a period of time for them to go through their processes of decontamination before they can reopen that facility. If the Health Services Authority has to shut down, that is a significant blow to this entire community. So we don't want that. And we need to do every single thing within our power to make sure that that does not happen. So Nathan, I'm Terry. Sorry, Nathan, please tell him to stay home. So Yolandi says labor laws are weak because people in government own many businesses, not in their interest to be pro workers. That's partly true. And it's also partly true that the business community has always run the show in this country for the large part. So they have a lot of pull. Lots and lots of pull. Leroy says coronavirus update. I think this morning it's over 22,000 deaths. We can look that up. There actually is a ticker thing, which we shared the other day. There's several websites that are monitoring like the number of infections, the number of people who've died, the whole fallout from this. And it's pretty massive. So let's see what figures we can get. But I believe you, Leroy. I totally believe you. So we have almost 500,000 cases. So right now it says coronavirus cases 490,253. Number of deaths 22,156. The number of persons that have recovered 118,060. And it gives you a breakdown of like how many cases have closed, how many active cases. So currently infected is 350,000 people. And of those, 5% are in serious or critical condition. 95% have mild symptoms. And so far, we have a 16% death rate of the closed cases, because obviously once you're dead, they close that. That's pretty significant. That's a pretty high percentage. Even compared to the seasonal flu, it's extremely high. So then they have the breakdown by country. So right now by country, China has the most for total cases of over 81,000. Italy is on the heel of that with over 74,000. But here's the thing that is amazing. China has had 81,285 total total cases. Of that, 3,287 deaths. Despite the fact that Italy has 74,386 total cases, their death rate has now doubled. I think that's more than doubled that of China. So they have over 7,500 people that have died. So China has a higher recovery rate, much lower death rate than Italy. And they are really, really, really suffering in Italy. I mean, our prayers go out to the Italian people. They've got a situation on their hand like no other. Next in line with total number of cases is the US with over 68,000 cases. They've got over 1,000 deaths. And remember now, keep this in perspective. There are people who are dying in nursing homes, and they have an outbreak right now in the US. An entire, was that the US or the UK? I think it's the US. A nursing home of like some 95 patients, all of them have been presumed to have the coronavirus because someone came in and infected one patient and boom, everybody is now presumed to have it. And they have had to shut down the entire nursing home. But there are people who are dying who are not in the total figures yet because, they may be dying in isolation or they may be dying in a nursing home and they're still playing catch up. They're still testing people. There's, the US and the UK are woefully behind on testing. Really, really behind. So despite them saying that they have over 68,000 cases in the US and only 1,000 deaths, every single country just presume that the number of deaths that are reported, the number of infections that are reported, are at the low end. They are a bare minimum because there will be people who've died that they haven't yet even had a chance to test and to confirm that that's what the cause of death was. Spain, right after Italy, has the highest number of deaths now. So they have also surpassed China with the number of deaths, and they're at 4,089. And they have, again, less overall infected cases by almost 30,000 than China, but still a higher number of the population dying. And there's a lot of reasons why that could be. I mean, it could be everything from, the medical systems that are in place. China did, listen, when China said they were going into lockdown, they were not allowing people to go out on a boat. They were not allowing people to go to Stingray City. When they locked down, they meant you're in lockdown. And if you come out of your house, we will shoot you kind of lockdown. That's how seriously the Chinese took it, to try to get it under control. And considering that they're the epicenter of where this happened, I think most people are impressed with, their numbers that they're reporting, which hopefully are accurate. So the UK, France, Switzerland, there's a whole list here of all the countries in the world. South Korea, again, we've seen that South Korea has been applauded for. I mean, they've still had obviously people who've gotten it, people who died, but they've been applauded for the way in which they've handled this situation. So I don't know, are there any countries? I mean, this is such a long list. Cayman Islands were on the list with 8, 1 death. Active cases, it says 7, obviously, because the one guy has died. Other places around the world, I'm trying to remember, is there anyone in the world that doesn't have it? Let me tell you who only has 1 case of it. Turks and Caicos has 1 case. Timor-Leste, which I don't even know where in the world that is, they have 1 case. St. Vincent and the Grenadines has 1 case. Papua New Guinea has 1 case. Montserrat has 1 case. Libya has 1 case. Grenada has 1 case. Somalia has 2. St. Kitts has 2. Nicaragua has 2. So there's some countries who still have, 1 or 2 cases, and I'm sure they're doing their best to try to keep it that way. Surprisingly, a lot of Africa, I don't know if they're not submitting a whole lot of numbers, but they have very low numbers as of right now. But again, maybe it's just because they're not testing. They don't have the capacity to test a lot of people in the community. So let's see some of your comments. Instagram, Sean says, I was sitting in PG on the day they were escorting her out to the flu clinic. I don't know who he's referring to when he says escorting her out. Is that the one infection case at the hospital? So do we now know that it's a woman? Iron 8 says, has the discussion of hazard pay for exempt workers been brought into consideration by government as yet? So can you clarify what you mean by hazard pay? Are you saying that during times like this, essential workers are supposed to be making more money? Because I don't think that's going to happen, to be honest. When you sign up for certain jobs like police, like hazard management, the pay that you get, you understand that, it is what it is. And you actually are expected to do certain things during very high stressful situations. And I don't think you're expecting additional pay. Chica Cherry says El Salvador has no cases. Chica, that's actually incorrect. And this is where, again, we want to be making sure that we have good information. El Salvador has 13 cases. So Chica, you might be from El Salvador, and maybe your family are telling you that, but they actually have 13 cases. So again, go look it up. More than one source. But this source that I'm getting this information from is World ometers.info. And these are government numbers. And sure enough, I do a just general Google search, and I have a Spanish article here 11 hours ago with the president, I think, of El Salvador. Let me see who this guy is. I don't know. Bukele, is he your president of El Salvador? I'm sorry, I don't know much about El Salvador, but he confirms, and again, my Spanish isn't up to par here, but it says coronavirus in El Salvador. And then it says El Ambicioso. Again, my Spanish is horrible. It used to be so good. Plan de Bukele para reforzar la económica de país, blah, blah, blah. So basically what that says, coronavirus in El Salvador, the ambicioso, I think that means ambitious plan of Bukele for reforming the economy. Not too bad in my translation for the country. I don't know what amenazada means, so I'd have to look that word up. But it says por el COVID-19. So he's already talking about basically what his plan is for economic reform because they have 13 cases. And then it says el país centroamericano que estuvo entre los últimos en reportar la presencia del COVID-19 en América Latina. Dio a conocer este fin de semana un ambicioso paquete. Okay, so basically it says in the Central American country, que estuvo entre the ultimate report about a presentation of the COVID-19 in Latin America. Something about conocer, I think, means to know. In this este fin de semana is like this weekend or the end of the week. A packet. So I think it's talking the details of what his packet is. So yeah, El Salvador has, and then he says he has he's going to do recibirán un bono de US 300 para compensar su carecencia, blah, blah, blah. So I think this is like a package. He's doing a bono. This bono means bonus of US $300 to compensate. So I think he's doing like a bonus payment for people during the crisis. Yeah. So you guys have to forgive me. I mean, so Glenn says that amenazada, I think that's how it's pronounced, means threatened. Thank you. Learned a new Spanish word today. Belize has 2. El Salvador has 13. Yeah. So maybe this is a good time for me to try to brush up on my Spanish because I tell you what, it actually used to be really good. When I was in high school, my Spanish was so good that when I went to university, USF, you have to do a foreign language as part of your bachelor's degree. I did my placement exam and they were like, oh, you actually can exempt out of your university Spanish requirement because at the university level, I would be at Spanish level 3 and you only had to do like level 1 and 2 semesters or whatever. So I was like, yay, let's do that. Save me some money because, I was a poor university student, didn't have my dimes. But I used to be so much more fluent and, I could understand a lot more by ear, by listening. And also my pronunciation was much better. Trust me, it has really suffered. Terry says, wow, you were doing very good. You should keep it up. Thank you so much, Terry. Cameron wants to know who am I cussing out? No, I'm not cursing anyone in Spanish. Although, when you do Spanish, those are always the first words that you learn. There's like some of the curse words and stuff, but we're not cursing anybody out this morning. John says, I can teach you Spanish online. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. With all the modern technology, to be honest, I could just start doing a bit more listening to Spanish news and stuff, and I'd pick it right back up. This is kind of a funny thing. totally unrelated to coronavirus, but hey, we're here to keep you guys entertained as well as informed. I've always felt like if I were to go to a Spanish country for like 6 months, just lived in a Spanish country full time, that I would be extremely fluent because I kind of have a lot of the basics already and the brain retains that information. It's just that it needs to be brought back to the forefront and you need to start using it. You need to start seeing the words and speaking the language, interacting with people. But if I did like an immersion of 6 months, I feel like I could totally pick it up. I remember when I took my Panama trip, this is like, oh my gosh, probably 5 years ago now. My husband and I went to Panama. We went to Honduras. I loved Panama. We did like a couple days in the rainforest area. And then we did a couple days in the city. We went to the Panama Canal and it was like this whole cruise thing, right? And when we were out at the like country resort, the lady there who was doing the tours would like take us. We did like the butterfly farm and all kind of stuff. It was so beautiful. And she said to me, like, she would start talking to me a little bit in Spanish and whatever. And she's like, your Spanish, your fundamentals are good. Like, if you just stayed here for a little while, you would really pick it up, And so, but of course, it's like on the list of a million things that you want to do one day. You might even want to pick up playing the keyboard. There's so many things right now. You're in quarantine that you can definitely do. So Emmy says, yes, that's the best way to learn another language is to go to the country, live there, and self-immerse. Michael says, love the way that you keep us informed. Keep up the good work. Much love. And Terry says you can help yourself very much. So Mel is tuned in. Let's just check the Instagram comments. What's going on in IG? Yes. So WizBite says use it or lose it. And you know what? That is a principle for everything in life. Whether it is us exercising, your heart muscles, like right now, I need to get in an exercise program. I've been feeling a little bit, I don't know if it's the stress of COVID-19 or what's going to be going on, but my energy level in the past couple of days has been a little bit low. And I haven't really been doing things that I know that I'm supposed to be doing, like really eating well, exercising, those types of things, right? So I'm monitoring my blood pressure levels, my stress levels at the moment. Because yeah, just like anything, like if you're not exercising your heart, your muscles, whatever, you lose muscle density, you lose, the ability for your heart to be optimal to help you if you do get sick, to like fight off things and all these kind of things. So yeah, I mean, you gotta definitely think about all of these things. Life is about balance. And the most important thing in life is having your health. Above all else, you can have all the money in the world. If you don't have your health, your mental well-being, your psychological well-being, none of that really, really, really is going to matter. Life, first and foremost, and health. And that is why we are here fighting so much to keep COVID-19 off of our shores, because the impact on this would be devastating. So during the curfew period, government will continue to develop the details of a shelter-in-place order, which again, if you're just joining us, shelter in place means shelter in your house. And this is an order that has now been basically initiated or implemented as of yesterday. We're going to have reasonable movement for people to have access to supermarkets, pharmacies, banks, exercise in groups of no more than 2. So now that has gone down to 2. Speaking of exercising, so they're going to present a plan to the community later in the week for what happens after Saturday, right? So this is very much in flux and they're working on it. They will continue to have the daily press briefings. So we should have one around 2:00-ish. And again, listen, we know that they're supposed to start at 2:00. These guys are busy trying to have their meetings and whatever. So if they don't start exactly at 2:00, let's not get on social media and start complaining about, oh, they're not starting on time. Listen, we're in Cayman time. Relax yourself. 2-ish, 2:15, 2:30, 4-ish, we'll get there. Um, so they're going to be rolling out more details in terms of how it's going to work past Saturday. Okay. So again, I'm going to read out the list of people. So we do want supermarkets and pharmacies after Saturday and banks to be able to reopen and continue working. Someone sent me a message. Now, here's the thing. Someone said, oh, their bank is still requiring, even in this total shutdown, still requiring some staff members to come in to work on ATM machines and whatever. If they're not on the list of exempted companies, which we're going to go through here in a second, that shouldn't be happening. And to the best of my knowledge, banks are actually not on the list. So this is where now, if you own a business, if you own a bank, you need to start making sure, if you hadn't already, that you have certain things in place whereby your workers are allowed to actually work remotely, work from home, log into systems. There should be very few jobs in this day and age where people have to actually go into the job, especially office-based jobs, because we all have the ability with computer and technology to remotely access all sorts of systems. So you need to make sure that those systems are in place where, if needed, you can have your staff working remotely. So categories for curfew exempt organizations. So again, these are categories, but my understanding is you need to make sure that you have permission. Obviously, if you are not on this list. So there's 10 basic categories. All emergency and essential services. That's category 1. So that's going to include licensed security services, 911, fire, prison, CBC, that's Customs and Border Control, Department of Environment, island waste carriers, junk, because those people, we can't have total devastation. So garbage collection will continue, for example, because the last thing that we need on top of coronavirus is garbage laying all over the streets and laying all over the world here in the Cayman Islands, and then we have a rat infestation and God knows what else come out of that. So there's certain things that have to continue, right? Cleaners at medical facilities and isolation centers. So someone had asked yesterday about cleaners in general, and I was thinking, what kind of cleaners? Like, where are you going? Are you going to an office to clean? So again, cleaners, but only at medical facilities and isolation centers, because they're trying to keep those areas, contamination free. Medical emergency medical facilities such as the HSA, Health City, Doctors Hospital, medical testing laboratories, and ambulance. Can I just tell you this word, laboratories? I've never said it that way before, but I think now that I live in an environment where a lot of English people say it that way, I've always said it the American way, which is laboratories. And I just realized as it came out of my mouth that I'm saying laboratories. Isn't that funny how the brain kind of works? So someone said they're missing the show, and I'm telling them I'm still on air for a little bit. So we've got MRCU, Department of Environment, Weather Service, CIAA, Island Paving. Someone did ask me about Island Paving. So apparently they're part of emergency and essential services under category 1. CIAA. So basically, I think what's going on with Island Paving and CIAA is they're going to continue working on the runway. So they're not going to stop that project. And maybe this is a good thing. Whilst there's no planes coming in, there's no congestion at the airport, this is a perfect opportunity for them to be doing their blasting and repaving and extension of the runway. So get it done. Obviously, CIAA wouldn't have probably as many staff on. So generally speaking, they're on the list, but they're will be staff members who are not required, depending on what it is that they do, right? DVES, emergency vehicles only, ministers and members of cabinet and the legislative assembly. So the premier's office staff, governor's office, cabinet portfolio, office of public prosecution, judicial administration, attorney general's chambers. So the legal system doesn't stop just because we're on a quarantine. For example, night before last, the first night of the curfew, they did have a man that was arrested. And he was arrested for being out after 8 o'clock at night. And on his person, apparently he got aggressive when the police started talking to him. He had pepper spray, which I'm like, really? The women and victims that probably need pepper spray don't even have it, but he's walking around with pepper spray, a knife, and ammunition. So those are all offenses that he has now been arrested for. So, he has to be arraigned, he has to be arrested, he has to, potentially have a hearing before a judge. But what has happened, we're going to talk about the court system in a bit. Obviously, jury duty is suspended. They will not be having any jury trials or anything that requires a whole lot of people to come in, but the court system still goes on. And as a matter of fact, there was a case with the gold smuggling case. The prosecution lost that case, and that happened this week. That decision came down on, I want to say Monday or Tuesday. So they actually lost that case. We're going to talk about that another day, because they had a QC here from overseas that we're going to FOI how much that QC got paid, top dollar, and they still lost the case. But that's for another day. The second category of exemptions, utilities and infrastructure, and they've specifically named them again: Port Authority, Water Authority, Cayman Water Company, CUC, BRAC Power and Light, Flow, Digicel, Logic, C3. That's it. Food and medical distributors. So again, it's not the entire company. And this will be curfew exemptions after Saturday, because right now we're all in lockdown, right? So grocery stores to stock, and this will include staff for shipping, receiving, and warehouse processing only. So if you're a cashier and you're stopped at 8 o'clock at night, you can't tell the police, oh, I work for Foster's as a cashier, because they're going to be like, and what does that have to do with the price of tea in China? Absolutely nothing. So it's for specific categories, grocery stores, to be able to stock and restore their perishable goods only. So that is the limitation. So you can't have your accountant, if you're a grocery store owner, going in outside of curfew hours to sit in the office and work, doing accounting work. That's not what this is meant to be. And then they've named the grocery stores: Uncle Clem's, Heston, which I don't even know who they are, first I'm hearing of them, Madac, Tulsi, Progressives, Cayman Distributors, Island-wide Distributors. So the distributors, because a lot of them supply a lot of the grocery stores and stuff. So as a category is grocery stores, and you'll know if you have a license as a grocery store, you will know that you have a license as a grocery store. And then all of these other people. Now, a lot of people are asking about the mini marts. I don't think that a mini mart is considered a grocery store. But of course, if you're not sure and you own a mini mart, you need to contact the email address to inquire if you fall under that category. But I'm assuming that if you do not have a trade and business license as a grocery store, you would not be a grocery store now. You're a mini mart, which is closely related, but not the same as a grocery store. Next category is transportation and shipping. Delivery of food and medical supplies only. So Cayman Airways Cargo, Thompson Shipping, Hyde Shipping, Lemmy's Trucking, Tropical Shipping, Couriers, UPS, DHL, and FedEx. So again, they can open during the day after Saturday once there's no curfew, but during the curfew hours, they are limited to delivery of food and medical supplies only, because the curfew is in place for a reason. All right, this is a good one, because a lot of you are asking about food vendors and restaurants. So food vendors and restaurants, Mise en Place, which they do food for students in isolation. So apparently they're the ones who are delivering. They must have gotten the contract to deliver the food at the Comfort Suites in Margaritaville. Restaurants with existing delivery services and contracted delivery providers. So it says no drive-through. So again, this is outside of curfew. So Burger King, support Burger King and Popeyes. They're some of our corporate sponsors. I'm not telling you to eat Burger King, Popeyes every day, but if you want to go drive-through during the day, but during the curfew hours, there'll be no drive-through. Because again, you're requiring those staff members to then be on the streets and stuff as well, right? Order takers. Cooks and delivery people. Charitable organizations is another category, and they've gone through and list exactly what charitable organizations they're talking about. So if you're a charity that doesn't have anything to do with, like, there's no real reason for you to be on the roads during this situation, then you wouldn't be. So don't try to abuse this situation. So the specific charity organizations are talking about Meals on Wheels, Cayman Crisis Center, Jasmine Hospice, Feed Our Future, and other meal delivery for feeding students. Because again, right now, I have a young lady who messaged me last night. She's an NAU client, and she's saying that she just got sorted with her apartment. NAU had initially told her to come on Friday to get her food vouchers, but now we're shut down. And all week, she's been having one meal a day to try to sustain herself until she can get her NAU vouchers. We've reached out to some of our partners from Meals on Wheels already from last night to try to see how we can help her out, because she needs to have at least just a basic bag of groceries at home where she can fix a sandwich in the day, whatever. I mean, think about it. One meal a day, that's kind of rough. Specialist care for the elderly and vulnerable. AAA Home Care, Caring Hands Cayman, Direct Care, Cayman Direct Care, Gold Heart Caregivers, and the Pines Retirement Homes, and others. So you'll know, again, if you're in that specialist care. Next category is emergency veterinary services. So there were a few people yesterday morning asking about this. So you're on the list: Island Vet, Cayman Animal Hospital, Cayman Mobile Pet. So again, if they have an emergency after Saturday, if they have an emergency vet situation in the middle of the night, if your dog is having a seizure or whatever, you can reach out to those businesses and they can assist you. Animals in captivity. So I did have someone contact me yesterday being very, very frantic about this, because they were saying that, listen, they have animals to feed. They have a chicken farm or something. And if they don't feed their animals, the animals are going to die. So what are they to do? And I sent them the email address to contact. So you'd be happy to know that you're on the list. Livestock farmers, equestrian centers, Turtle Center, Dolphin Cove, the dolphins are in captivity. They need to be fed. Animal House for the purposes of animal care only. So again, they can't go in and be doing inventory stuff or whatever else. Animal care only. Impound facilities such as the Department of Agriculture, Humane Society, Paws and Care, and Cayman Pet Paradise, again, for the purposes of pet care only. In media, press and media is the last line of categories, but only in your line of duty. So in other words, I can't go out there for a jog on Shedden Road, get pulled over and be like, oh yeah, I'm media, so I'm good. No. If I'm not out there covering a story, and trust me, I ain't going nowhere unless it's like emergency coverage, because I want to show people, just like I'm going to stay home, we can all stay home. We can all respect this shelter in place order. We can do this. Honduras now has 52 cases, Kevin says. Whoa. That's crazy. Wiz says that he can send me some Japanese resources if you're interested. You know, the one language that we should actually all be learning is Chinese, because population wise and their impact on the global economy, we should all be learning Chinese. Speaking of China, the hantavirus is popping up in China now, and it comes from rats. So we know that one person has died from that. The good thing about the hantavirus is because we know that it comes specifically from rats, hopefully it's not a situation where it starts to have human to human transmission. That hasn't happened yet, but I don't know what's going on with the rat population in China, but let's hope that they can get that under control to deal with this latest outbreak of the hantavirus, because it seems like it doesn't take much from things, rats and bats and all these creatures infect us with diseases, which in their population, it may not even be deadly to them, but it's not designed to be in the human population. So you're around rat feces, or heaven forbid you eat a rat, which, by the way, China has now said that they're going to make it illegal for people in China to eat. I think they categorize it as like wild creatures, whatever, and we have to see how they define that. So in other words, like no more eating of bats and rats and God knows what else. That's now going to become illegal, because look at what has happened allegedly as a result of people eating bat soup, which is where they think this coronavirus outbreak has started. That's big, because I hope that they have dogs on the list as well. Although dogs are not considered wild animals, I still think that they should be, for the purposes of not eating them. So we'll see. I'm going to get some more information on that, because I think that's very interesting. And that's a big thing in China, because they like to eat very different things. We'll put it that way to be nice. And so for the government to say, we got to cut this out. There's always going to be a black market for certain things, because people believe all sorts of foolishness. This is going to make me more sexy if I eat bat soup. It's going to help with my libido. It's like, really? Take a Viagra or something else. Kaylin says, will the liquor stores deliver after this 24-hour lockdown? What is with it? What's with this country and the liquor questions? Like, are we really that invested in liquor stores? I guess so. And that's why we have one on every corner. Like in this country, when we look at business categories, we have more churches, first of all, restaurants. I think the churches and restaurants might be neck and neck. We probably technically have more restaurants than churches, but we got a lot of churches. Liquor stores and hair salons. Those must be the top 4 businesses in the Cayman Islands. And everyone is just into the liquor business. Like liquor delivery. Do you not have a glass or a bottle of something at home that can last you for the next month? We have liquor in our house, because when my husband and I actually don't drink. I mean, he might have the occasional beer. I don't drink at all. But when we entertain, we might want to offer someone a glass of wine or whatever. You know what we do at parties? We get the sparkling juice. Non-alcoholic sparkling juice. Have a glass of this and pretend like you're drinking something. But we do have, I think, some rum and wine and whatever, because we do have friends that obviously drink, and we want to be good entertainers if we invite people over. But I have stuff here that I've had for years that's not even open yet. So I don't get it. But again, that's just me. Like, I'm not feeling the need that people should have to crack a bottle every single day. When the 24/7 lockdown is done, I don't know if liquor stores will be able to deliver or not. They're not on the list of delivery. They're not categorized as an essential service. But Kaylin, if you get desperate and you want something, I will give you a bottle of what I have. Because we don't want you to get desperate, but I'm hoping that, no one out there has a problem with alcohol, hopefully, that is thinking, well, I mean, we know people have problems with alcohol. We know we've got AA, we've got Alcoholic Anonymous. But hopefully people don't, maybe this is a hard time for people who are addicted to something. But this, we could look at this as maybe a time to try to detox a little bit. You know, if you've been drinking a lot, maybe come off the booze for a minute, detox, get healthy. I'm going to try to do a little bit of exercising today because I've got a gym, a home gym that has been set up for years that hasn't seen me in there. The treadmill's collecting dust. The what's the other one called? The elliptical machine is collecting dust. I've got free weights. I've got an exercise ball, not using any of it. So we can now start to challenge ourselves a little bit about maybe some of our behaviors, you know, clean it up. Listen to Carmelie. Sandy Hill, I'm coming for all rum that you have. No, you will not be coming to my house because we're in 24/7 lockdown. No one is coming in the front door, the back door, or any other door. And you don't need the rum. I'm pretty sure, Carmelie, you of all people don't need no rum. So people, just hold it down. Yes, take a minute to detox. Go alcohol free for a couple days. Relax yourself. I know Cindy's been like, oh, the government needs to allow us to smoke some weed because we're all stressed out. It's really not that bad. We are so fortunate. I'm wrapping up the show now, and I want to end this on a positive note. We here in the Cayman Islands are so incredibly fortunate. We have so much to be thankful for. So don't make this more than it has to be. Most of us have food, we have drinks, we have, you know, we're good, we're okay. It's just a couple days. I'm low on bread, although I do have 12 green bread, which is probably way healthier, I think, than the hard dough bread. So I'm all right. I can make a few sandwiches. You know, we're going to be okay. Like, we don't need to exaggerate the situation. There are people in Spain, in Italy, and other places of the world that are dealing with this situation at a devastating level. Those people are losing their lives. Family members are sick. Family members are dying. So, what's the big deal if we can just, you know, relax ourselves a little bit? That's what I'm saying to people. Like, just take it easy. There is no need for you to over drink, over smoke. There's no need for you to drink too much liquor, feel the need to smoke marijuana. None of that is necessary. Just relax, meditate, spend some time with the family, play board games, watch a little bit of TV. Like, there's a couple of TV shows that I've never been able to watch, despite the fact that my schedule really hasn't slowed down, to be honest. I'm kind of thinking maybe I'll try a new TV series. Maybe I'll try watching something new that I can kind of get into. There's tons of educational videos that I've been meaning to watch. I want to learn more like about photoshopping because I don't really know anything about photoshopping. Video editing, I do like the bare minimum with video editing. Like, I know how to split a video, but there's so much more in the world of video editing that I could like totally do. You know, all those things in the back of my head, they're like on a to-do list. I'm like, yeah, I want to do this one day. I want to do that. Maybe now is the time to look at some of those things. Go, I have a day where I will not really be committed to doing anything outside of my home. So let me consider some of these other things, you know? Chantel says, sorry if you covered it. My friends who live in apartment complexes are asking if you can please clarify the rules, whether or not they can walk around the strata complex for fresh air or whether they have to remain inside of their unit indoors. So stay inside. When we say stay home, we mean even in strata complexes, stay inside, especially until Saturday. So the whole idea, and I know this is hard, the whole idea behind this is no contact with anyone else outside. So say that you have a strata that has 100 people and they all decide to go out in the morning for fresh air. You're creating a problem, especially since we know that this virus, in all likelihood now, is airborne as well, and we have local transmission. Stay inside. If you have a house, You can go out on your back porch. You can go out in the backyard just to get a little bit of fresh air. If you have an apartment and you have like a porch area, or some of the units in the back have like dividers where you're like in your little thing and no one else is in your little section, I think that that would be fine, because you might go stir crazy if you're just staring at four walls all day. So yeah, yesterday, well, this is before 7 o'clock, before the lockdown started. We were outside for a little bit. My husband was doing some gardening in the yard, planting some trees and whatever. My daughter just wanted to go get her little paws. Sorry. I'm a dog owner as well. So that's for Coco. Coco has paws. My daughter has hands and feet. But she wanted to go out there and get her hands and feet dirty and muddy and whatever. And you get that. I mean, I have to let the dog outside. She has to run around a little bit. So yeah, people get stir crazy inside. So I totally get the question. But especially between now and Saturday, we need to make every concerted effort to actually stay inside of our homes as much as possible. Understanding that you may have to let the dog out in the yard, kind of thing. Charlene says, Sandra, my comment is especially in cases of emergency, because we definitely can't have anything happening to you or your family, which also may affect you. I didn't see the earlier comment, Charlene. Oh, here we go. Thank you, Sandra, so much. You're totally fantastic, and your ability to keep everyone well informed, which is of extreme importance. Thank you guys so much for the support. None of us saw this coming. We started the Cold Hard Truth, our show. It's been a year and probably about 3-4 months now. But this is the kind of thing I'm so glad that we're able to do, because this is the vision. I mean, yeah, listen, sometimes we have salacious conversations on this show. We talk about the gossip in our community. We talk about the self-proclaimed celebrities. And what's so crazy is when we have those conversations, 500 plus people tune in for it. But when we have more serious conversations, not so many. But we get that as human beings, we are complex creatures. We are people who are not going to just sit down and be serious all the time. We're not going to just read the news all the time. We engage in gossip. We want to talk about all sorts of things. And that's where Cayman Mall Road has really filled the gap. Like, we're here for it. Like, there are times when we just want to gossip too. And there are times when we're going to bring you the gossip. But we also understand the importance of good, reliable information, bringing you accurate information in terms of crises, especially like this. We want to make sure that, we're getting it right. We're providing all of the details to you as and when it happens. So let's just stress again what we're doing here before we end the program today. So the government has a complete curfew, 24/7 curfew, lockdown, whatever you want to call it, for all 3 islands from 7 p.m. last night, which was Wednesday night, March the 25th, until 5 a.m. on Saturday, March the 28th. The curfew, the extension of the curfew, because remember, we already had a nightly curfew in place, and that will resume Saturday night at 7 o'clock. So make sure we're all aware. But this is now an extension, a broadening of that. The extension of the curfew means prohibiting movement outside of the home by all but essential personnel. And this, again, is a matter of public health and welfare. So let's make it very, very clear. Yesterday, we had 2 additional persons who tested positive for COVID-19, bringing the total number to 8 in the Cayman Islands. The premier, the governor, cabinet, everyone is urging Caymanians and residents alike to strictly abide by the curfew and to take this very, very seriously. We're trying to flatten the curve or suppress the transmission of COVID-19 as quickly as possible. We have a shelter-in-place order, and they are working on the details throughout the week, getting us more information on that. We have a list we've just read of exempted persons. Remember, a business isn't exempted. It's more about the persons that are exempted within a business. The reason for this, some 850 requests covering a total of 20,000 workers initially came in to the government to be considered for this exemption category. That's ridiculous and way too many people. The premier and the governor actually said this: "We understand how restrictive the current measure is and fully appreciate the impact it will have on people and economic activity. But we believe it is absolutely necessary given the public health emergency the world is facing." The premier said, "With our borders having been locked since last Sunday, if our strategy is successful in suppressing community spread, in a matter of a few weeks, we may be able to relax these restrictions and return to some level of normalcy. The police are going to be enforcing the curfew. And so if you do not want to get arrested, fined up to, I think it's $3,000 and potentially put in jail, abide by the curfew." This is very, very important. Mitzi says that her grandson is currently studying Chinese. Tasha says that delivery restaurants are open today and doing curfew once they get the letter from the government to do so. So check to see if your favorite restaurant is delivering during lockdown. All right, folks, that's it. We will do the usual press briefing at 2 o'clock-ish later on this afternoon. And so Tasha says you can't use strata pools because they can't distance from each other. Not only about distancing from each other, but they're using like a common space. And right now, this is all about stay out of common spaces. You go to the pool, you're touching the pool railing, you're sitting on the chairs, you don't go anywhere that's going to expose you to that. So the best advice is to stay indoors. Up until Saturday, we have a shelter in place order. So you shouldn't be walking around the strata property because that is considered public space. So don't do that. After Saturday, maybe, but between now and Saturday, stay inside your house, go on the back porch. So we're going to have our regular show this evening, God's willing. And so what we're going to cover this evening is there was a video in circulation that was going around quite heavily about a Dominican lady who made some comments about, what's happening here in the Cayman Islands and all this kind of stuff. Most of it was very exaggerated and untrue. So we're going to talk about that in this evening's show, as well as anything else that develops out of the afternoon press briefing. Unruly Leo says, "I feel you on the detox part, because damn, they calling for this like it's going to save them." I think he meant calling for the liquor. Somebody wants to know if I want to donate that exercise ball. I know I need to use it, so let me maybe start by that. Carmel Mama says, "Is the lockdown, 24/7 lockdown, extended until Sunday?" Not yet. So as far as we know, it is still Saturday morning. But if that changes, we will certainly let you guys know. Folks, thank you so much for the support. Big shout out to everybody on Instagram. We now have over 12,200 Instagram followers. So we certainly appreciate the support there. Facebook, which is kind of our primary platform. There's certain things that we can't even share, like links and stuff, on Instagram because of how Instagram works. But Facebook, we have reached an all-time high of 25,207 followers. And page likes, we now have 14,354. And we're aware that there's a lot of people that actually go to our social media platforms and pages who may not follow or like us, but Facebook still gives us, and Instagram, all of that analytical information. So we literally have hundreds of thousands of people viewing your pages. That's called page view. So for example, on Facebook, in the last 28 days, we've had over 360,000 people view our page. Post engagement, which is like the people who, react to it, comment, share it, click it, whatever. We have 1.1 million post engagement, and they give you the exact number: 1,121,966 on Facebook. So thank you guys very much. We are by far the number one, especially for social media. We are by far the number one news media house when it comes to engagements, because Facebook tells us you can actually compare yourself to others. So we always monitor how we do. This allows us to, just keep an eye on things from a market perspective, because Cayman Mall Road is growing into a business. It started as a hobby a little bit, and now it's definitely growing into business. We've got people contacting us for advertising and other things, so we do appreciate the support. So we do monitor our analytics so that we can provide that information to those who wish to have it. And sometimes it's just interesting to view. So for example, in the past 7 days, we have had over 387,000 persons engage with our page. And again, I think this is on a weekly post, engagement this week. And so the next closest to us in terms of Compass, Loop, Cayman News Service, Cayman Crosstalk, Cayman Times, Radio Cayman. The next closest to us is the Compass, and they have way more likes than we do. And this information for this part is based on likes. So we have over 14,000 likes. They actually have over 22,000 likes. So congratulations to them for that. But we still have more people, ironically enough, that engage with our page than those who like us. So what that means really is people may not give us a like. They may just follow our page and see what we're posting, but they're still engaging, they're commenting, they're sharing, they're doing all that kind of stuff. So the Compass had 152.3 thousand number of engagements for the week, compared to our 387.8 thousand. So just a little bit of interesting information there for you guys if you're interested. Yesterday's press conference and the subsequent article, like one day we had 1,000 people tuned into our live stream. We do rebroadcast in real time the live stream on our pages on Facebook. We try to do Instagram. I'm aware that yesterday we didn't do Instagram. My apologies for that, but Instagram is very tricky with the live stream and the limitations that are in place. But when we did the story and we posted the story in terms of the complete lockdown and whatever, we had an immense number of persons, reading that article on the website. And the most interesting thing is on Facebook, that particular Facebook post got shared. I think it was almost like 300 by 300 different people. So people really sharing that, because people are trying to stay informed, and we are certainly doing the best job that we can to keep you as informed as possible. So, so that was the one about us being locked down. It was shared a number of 262 times, and over 13,000 people were reached by that one post. Folks, keep it locked right here to Cayman Mall Road. Thank you guys so much. Carmen says, I totally depend on CMR for news, the best. Thank you, Carmen. We appreciate that. Nardi says, good morning. I think Nardi's waking up late. Cameron says, doing great, CMR. God bless you and take care. Oh, quick note. If someone is like a business is open even during the shutdown that isn't supposed to be, I did ask the commissioner of police, well, how do we report it? What's the protocol? What's the procedure? They have indicated that you call 911, you report it to 911 so that they can then have an incident report and they can action it. So that's the way that they want anyone who's breaching curfew, who's breaching the complete shutdown, it should be reported at this particular time. Nardi says, thanks for keeping me updated, although I leave the island Saturday. Oh, I think you left Saturday, gone. Okay. Carmely says, where are you going? No. Not Saturday coming, Saturday in the past. I think she meant to say I left the island on Saturday, because it couldn't be this Saturday because, of course, the airport is closed. All right, folks, stay tuned. There was a little bit of a joke with the premier ending his segment yesterday when the mic was still on, and he was just like, oh my God, I can't believe people are asking me which Saturday. It was funny. It's called a hot mic. Like if I end the show right now and before I end it, I'm still talking, obviously the mic is going to pick up what I'm saying. Happens to the best of us. Everyone has been in that situation. We're like, oh my God, is the mic still plugged in? Is the mic still on? And not a big deal. I thought it was funny, actually. I thought it was very funny. So we're going to end the show now. I wish you guys a wonderful day. Stay tuned for the press briefing. Should be around 2:00, but of course, flexibility. And then we'll be back here this evening for the cold hard truth at 7 p.m. You guys have a wonderful day.